Hey, Chad and Dustin. I'm grateful for your recent email. It was received in good nature, and it's all good. It's all good. Regardless of how kind I pretend to be, my ideas need to have just as much scrutiny as everyone else's, and you shouldn't afford me any slack just because I'm a nice guy or anything like that. So it's all good. It's all good. You begin with quoting, "We have no right to believe any physical laws exist, or if they have existed up to now, or that they will continue to exist in a similar manner in the future." And to that, I ask you, did we have a right to inject people with the smallpox vaccine? Do we have a right to set a child's broken leg? Do we have the right, or did we have the right, to strap a team of scientists to an enormous canister of explosives in hopes of blasting them safely to the surface of the moon? All of these situations, and there are plenty more I'm sure you could think of, that assume that there are physical laws. In fact, if we are to truly believe that we have no right to believe that the physical laws exist or they will continue to exist, we have no reason to believe that the ground beneath our feet will stay solid. We could drop through to the center of the earth. We could, open our doorknob and step into a different dimension. We could cook a chicken in the microwave, or whatever, and have it be produced into a pot of gold. I mean, it really is, I think, more a problem to assert this notion than I think people realize. I think where this comes from, I don't know, do I have time for this? I think where it comes from is that science can't assume that it knows precisely what those laws are, ever, because they work through a system of affirming the consequent. That's how they work in science. That's the scientific method. They think this is the way it works. Here's a situation in which it works. Therefore, we think that's how it works. That's affirming the consequence, and therein is a logical fallacy. And it's for that reason that we cannot believe that any laws or any conceptualization that we have about the universe is absolutely correct in terms of scientific evidence. I think people take that and they run with it and make it into something that it is not. Your second quote, in regards to I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. Everything we talk about, everything that we can regard, postulates consciousness. Consciousness is a word that really begs to be defined in our day and age, much more than I think it ever has needed to be defined before. You know, are we talking mind? Are we talking soul? Are we talking what the brain does? Are we talking about the homunculus, in the head? Are we talking about this? I think we're on the same page though on that. And so, without really knowing, I'll say, yeah, everything that consciousness is indeed fundamental. But therein, I wonder if, in fact, you're agreeing with the points that you later critiqued of mine in saying that you regard consciousness as fundamental, because consciousness itself cannot be physical, because physical matter is dumb. It doesn't do anything without being told what to do by something outside itself. So if consciousness is the physical, or is fundamental rather, consciousness is fundamental to everything, it cannot itself be physical, right? It can't be that same dumb matter that we have in our world. Keep that in mind, and I think it'll all come together here in a few minutes. Your last one, science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature, and that is because in the last analysis we ourselves are part of the mystery we are trying to solve. And indeed that's true. Science works on a system of, like I had mentioned before, that's just affirming the consequent. They operate on a basis of logic, and we are inherently logical human beings. Our awareness is one that is inherently knowing of absurdity, and so on. And yes, you're right. Science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature because we are part of that mystery, and the reason science cannot understand that part of us is because we are the ones that employ inherent understandings of the universe, such namely logic, to make science work. And you can't use that as a basis of judging oneself or learning about oneself. It's just a tool. It's just a tool. Probably mumbling now. Okay, here we go. Okay, so then the majority, forgive me if I'm wrong here, of your critique towards me is that I am trying to draw a separation between man and God. And I'm not doing that. I am separating God from creation, or creator from creation. And I do that because I recognize that our world is causal, and that causation implies bodies and motion are the two words I've been using, and I'm going to keep using them for just sake of consistency. When you have bodies that do not beget their own motion, the motion has to come from something other than physical bodies. If Jasper agreed to that, he would have agreed to the notion of a non-physical plane of existence that acts as the basis of contingency that the physical world is placed on. And that would have been very, very disruptive to his worldview, and that's why we were hooked on it for so long. The fact of the matter is, if you want to say that consciousness is fundamental and consciousness is not physical, then you are saying precisely the same thing I am. I approach getting to that point from beginning with defining the necessity or exposing the necessity for a non-physical plane of existence. That is not to say it's not natural. It's not non-natural, it's supernatural. The super in the word supernatural is an adjective. That is to say that it is above this normal natural world, the one that does not have an adjective, or the physical world. So the supernatural world, or what you might call consciousness, is that which dictates, or is those which are those governing principles that occur between A and B. In the dialectica, I said energy is all the same, then energy is different. What's the difference? Or what's the cause for the difference? The cause is the supernatural. The cause is consciousness. And then you guys talk about God in a very scary sort of light, and I need to talk about this a little bit. You said that God, or that everything is a part of God. But in holding fast to that position, to say God exists is no more informative than to say everything that does exist exists. We know that, right? If God is merely the sum of all the parts, right, the sum of everything is God. If that's what you're saying, then how is the statement God exists at all informative, as I say? How is it different than to say the sum of everything exists, which itself is not very informative? If that's the case, why call it God at all? Now, if not, then what part of God is not accounted for in the sum of everything? And therein again, I think you will find the same thing I have, in that you have to separate creator from creation. That they are two different ideas, that they are two different things. Creation is a subset of ultimate potentiality. That ultimate potentiality is omnipotence, and that is God. All right, take care, guys.